Hi everyone, this is Ahmad Wasim Wardak. In this video I'm going to start to work on the project which is given to me in ITC 215 course. Create a three-dimensional tic-tac-toe game in Java. So first let's look at the requirements that what we are going to do for creating this game. A function board which draws three-dimensional board with different marks are represented by different characters and placed on the board according to the current stage of the game. B. A function getMove which receives the coordinate of mark to be placed by the player at each move. Make proper validation on the input to prohibit illegal moves, such as placing on square, which is a mark, and placing out of the three-dimensional board. A function checkWin which checks whether the game has reached the end according to the rule and determines the winner of the game. A main function which controls the turn of the players and calls the function above according to a proper flow. The implement best practice for writing a program. Best practice may include code reusability, modularity, robustness, and handling user input, remark and comments, reasonable naming of identifiers and indentation, and screen layouts. So now let's start the work and do the coding process. But for the coding process you need to have a workstation. So as you can see here, I'm using NetBeans IDE 8.2, but then it's up to you whether which kind of software you're using for your Java programming. So now the first code that I have used here for creating the TicTacToe is to call the scanner. To create the scanner code, the scanner is used to input the values into the system. So the scanner enables the user to input his or her values into the game. So you can just simply write import java.util.scanner and then you can call, and that's how we can call for the scanner in Java programming language. So now here public class programming project TicTacToe. You don't need to write this, you can just create this by the class by just going to this tab, and then here you can just click next, and then here name your class, and then you can create a new class for your project. As well as you can create a new project as well from by clicking this tab, and then here click next, and here you can name your project. So as I already created a class by the name of programming final project TicTacToe, now I will continue to the next coding process. So here, as you can see, the first thing that I need to do is to name the constants to represent the seed and cells contents. So here I use the static final method. So the public static final is different than the alone static public static, and the reason that why I use the static final because it's applicable to the class methods and variables, and the initialization of the variables is not it's compulsory, and you're not required to do it at the last time of the declaration. And as well as the modification, the static variable static variable can be reinitialized, but the final static cannot be reinitialized. And also the static methods, the alone static methods can only access the static member of the class and can only be called by other static methods. But then the final static methods cannot be inherited. So as here I just use it for the declaration and initialization of my seed and cell. So the seed is the cell is empty, I called it empty, and also the cell is empty, and the seed is stand for the X and O, which are the players or the seed that are going to occupy the cells in the board. Now here the next thing that I have done, I just use this the same method of static final. You can just simply write the following code: static final to declare and initialize the status of the game, whether the playing, the draw, the x1 and the o1. And now here the game board and the game status, I just declare and initialize the rows and column, the number of row and column, which we are based on the assignment we are required to create a three-dimensional tic-tac-toe game. So in order to do, we need to have 3 rows and 3 columns. So as I already declare and initialize here by using the public static final function. And now here we are going to create a function array. So as you can see, we are not going to do to use anymore the final static. We are going to use the public static, the main method for creating the array. I just used the data type of integer, and I name it board, and these two parentheses used. The first one is used for the row, and the second one is used for the column, and then equal to new integer. Here I initialize it, I name it rows, and the second bracket I name it columns. So this is how you declare, initialize and create arrow in Java. So as I commented here, game board into the array containing empty cross not. Cross is used for the x and not is used for the o. So now here the public static integer current says I use this method to call on the status of the game, whether it's playing, draw, or the x1. Let me just edit this one, x1 or o1. Here as well, I just called for another function to call for the current player, whether x or o. And then here as well I use the same function, current seed row and column. I use the public static method or function and use the integer data type for the current row and current columns. Now the next code that I have used here is just to enable the scanner in order to enable the user to put values into the system. So as you can see, the input scanner, public static scanner, you can just simply use this function, public static scanner scan equals to new scanner system.in. Now we are done with the declaration, initialization of the seed and cells and the status of the game for the tic-tac-toe. Now the main game or the main method start from here. This is our main methods, public static void main, and our main functionalities, loops, and other methods will be just creating from here. So as you can see, I just created a design to my tic-tac-toe game by using the system.out.println code, and you can and then it's up to you that whether how you organize or design your menu for your tic-tac-toe game. Now here by using this in8 game, I initialized the method for the game board and the current status of the game. So here now I use the do while loop for play the game for the first time. So as you can see here, I declared and initialized the player move current player. This command update current row and current column, and then update current state for and then I created or I typed another code to update the game. To update the game means for the current player, whether it's O or X, and the current row, and as well as the current column. So it just updates the current state of the game regarding the XO, the call, and the cells. So now here I use the print board. It will print these statements when the game over. So the print board method is just used for the printing of the statements when the game over and one of the player when the game or the game becomes draw. So here I use the if condition. If condition, as you can see here inside the brackets, current status. If X player won the game, then it would say congratulations X won, and again, and it would say game over. And else if O won, then I would say congratulations O won. And else if the game becomes draw, it would just say draw and will end the game. So this command is used to switch the players, and also it determines whether or which one is the first player that is going to play the game. So here, as you can see, current player equals to parentheses current player is equal to X. So it means the first player that is going to play the game is X, and this question mark is used used in order to when the turn of the first player is completed, then it will give or hand over the turn to the next player, which is O. So then here this while loop, or I mean while function, or sorry, the while loop is used. This command repeat the game until the game over. So we just write while current state equal to playing. Now here we create another function, public static void initiate the game. That means the initialize the game. This means to recognize the game board contents and the current states of the game. So as you can see, we use two for nested loop. We just initialize and create it and give the conditions. Integer r equal to 0, r is less than rows, and then we just increment it. As well as here, this one is for the rows and this one is for the seed X or player X. So now here this commands mean that all cells should be empty. We use this board RC. It means that it guarantee that all the cells are empty. And then here current states equal to game. This code determines whether the game is ready to play. And then here current player means the current player which is going to play the game is X, means the player X should first play the game. Here I created another public static void method for the player move. Here as you can see, integer seed, I initialize the seed which is O and O. So this method will provide movement and input validation, also update current row and current columns. Boolean valid input equals to false. So I declared the valid input by the Boolean data type. Boolean data type is usually used for false and true statements. So whether the statement is false or true. So it's a relational operator. So here also it used for the input validation. Now here I use a do while loop in order to repeat these statements inside this do while loop. So here I just use if condition, the seed equal to 0. I use the if condition whether it checks the current player, which is X. If the player was X or the seed was X, then it would say that player X coordinate your move according to this row and this column. So else if the seed was not X, then it would say the player O coordinate your move according to this row and this column. Here I initialized and created a code in order to ask from the user to input the values regarding the row, and this -1 is used to start the arrow from the 0 instead of 1. And also I use the same thing for the column as well, that it would ask from the user to input an integer in order to go for the operation, and it will start from the 0 as well. So here the if condition, I created another if condition because it would check that whether the user uh, write or typed a valid value regarding the row and the columns. So if it found that the value, the inputted value is wrong or invalid, then it would ask the user again to input another value in order to continue to the operation or the process of the game. So this if the condition was false, then the statement will be printed: this move at this row and this column is not valid, try again. So here this while loop is used to repeat the process of the invalid or valid statement. So when it becomes valid, then it will go to the next process. So here I created another public static void to update the game. This method is make empty cell and also draw if no player win the game. So it would just determine that whether which player has won the game according to which column and rows. So as you can see, the current state, the seed, let's say the seed x, if x won the game, then it would say that x won the game, or else it would say o won the game. Else if it was draw, the current state will be draw. Another, also here I created another public static boolean for the draw condition of the game. So here I just used two for nested loop, and here I created and initialized the row for the 0. Just it would say that the row is smaller the rows which we have initialized and declared. This row is referred to the rows that we have created for the board, and this row is just for the draw or the for draw condition of the game. So here also I use the same for the column as well, and then here I use the if condition in order to determine that whether the board is empty or not. If the board was empty cell found, then it would just don't draw and it would just exit. And if the no empty cell were found, then it would say that the game is draw. Here I have used another method in order to determine whether a player can win the game. By means that which 3 cells has to be occupied by a seed or a player, so that the system can announce the player of the game as the winner. So here, as you can see, I have initialized the seeds current row and current column in the method, and then here I have used the return command, so that this command will enable the system to return the result of the game to the user. So now here, because we are considering 3 cells in the board, that so the system will find out the winner of the game. So here, as you can see, the first condition which is met here is that the board current row 0 is equal to seed, and then we have used another AND operator. So because we need to also select or determine another row of the or cell of the board. Here also board current row equal to seed, and then again we have used the AND operator and board current row 2 equals to seed. So it means that when it becomes a 3 row in the board, then it would announce the player of the game. So whenever each of the player X or O has occupied 3 rows three cells in the row, then it would become the winner of the game. And then here again we use the OR operator because we need to determine the second condition which that a player can win the game. So here we just focus on the columns. We have considered the columns here. Board 0 column equal to the seed, and board 1 current column equal to the seed, again the AND operator, and board column 2 equal to the seed. So whenever the player has occupied 3 columns in a row or in the board, then it would announce the current player as the winner of the game. So here again we use the OR operator in order to determine the third condition that a player can win the game. So here, as you can see, we have used the diagonal partition here. Whenever the diagonal partition or diagonal form of the board has been occupied, cells has been occupied by a player, then it would announce the player as the winner of the game. And this one is also the last condition is also the opposite of the diagonal form. So this method is obviously used for the determination of the winner of the game, that how through which condition a player can win the game. So here I have used this method in order to print the board, not only print the board and also construct the structure of the board for the tic-tac-toe. So as you can see, I have used 2 for loops, first one for the rows and second one for the columns. So here as well, the print cell board row column will print each cell, and also here the system.out.print will print the vertical line of our board, and here as well this system.out.print will print the horizontal line. So this is the structure of this code is almost used for the structure and the design of our tic-tac-toe game or tic-tac-toe board. So here the last method which I have used here is that this method will represent a cell with a specified content, such as if a cell is occupied by player 1 like O, then the cell will be that will be occupied by X, for example. So this method, this function will represent that. So here I use the switch condition or statement. Here as you can see, case empty, which represent our cell as empty, then here case O, which can be occupied by O, and then here it can be occupied by player X. Okay, now I'm going to run this code in order to show you how this code works and how this game is proper for playing. So just run it, and then here this is the design which I have given to this code, and now here it asked for player X to coordinate your move regarding row 1 2 3 and column 1 2 3. So I will say 1 1 row 1 column 1. So as you can see, the first cell of row 1 and column 1 has been occupied by player X. Now the turns goes to the player O. So then I would say 2 2. As you can see that the turn goes to the player O, and the middle cell of row 2 and column 2 has been occupied by player O. Now I want to check whether if I use an invalid value, what it would say. So let's write 12 12. So as you can see, this move at 12 12 is not valid. Try again. Okay, now I would do another thing as well. I would just use the same cell which has been occupied by X. For example, the cell row 1 and column 1. I would use the same row cell as well again. So again it says this move at 1 1 is not valid. Try again. So this is how it works, and it's not allowing any invalid value to the system. So now let's finish the game. I will player X, let's say row 1 column 2. So here it goes to this row 1 column 2. The second cell of the board has been occupied. Now the turn goes to the player row. I will say 2 3. So as you can see, this part of the board is also occupied by O. Now the turn goes to the player X again. I will say 1 3. So there you go. Congratulations, X1. Game over. So this is how we can create a simple tic-tac-toe game in Java without any GUI, object oriented, or anything else.